If you bought a ticket, a pumpkin, or a souvenir at Roloff Farms anytime between 2018 and 2023, you might be owed a massive refund. Today, we break down the explosive new federal class action lawsuit filed by the fans themselves, exposing how Matt Roloff allegedly used your family memories to fund a secret life of luxury and fraud. You stood in line. You paid the entrance fees. You bought the expensive salsa and the overpriced pumpkins because you believed in the dream. You watched the show, you saw the grandbabies playing in the fields, and you thought your money was going to support a multi-generational family legacy. But what if that was all a lie? What if the wholesome image of the farm was carefully curated to hide a financial scheme that experts are now calling one of the most shocking cases of consumer fraud in reality TV history? We are talking about a potential $5 million payout. We are talking about federal court. And we are talking about a group of furious viewers who have finally said enough is enough. This isn't just about bad business. This is about betrayal. Reports are flooding in regarding a massive legal filing that claims Matt Roloff didn't just mismanage the farm. He allegedly induced you to spend money under false pretenses. The allegations suggest that while you were paying to support the Roloff legacy, that money was being siphoned off into secret accounts, hidden investments, and luxury purchases that had absolutely nothing to do with the farm and everything to do with a new life that didn't include his own children. This is the story that TLC might not want you to hear. This is the breakdown of the legal nightmare that could cost Matt Roloff everything. We have exclusive details on the law firm involved, the family stepping forward as plaintiffs, and the specific evidence they are preparing to bring before a federal judge. Matt has faced backlash before, but he has never faced a jury of his own former fans. Before we dive into the court documents and the shocking details of the plaintiffs, I need you to take 1 second to support real investigative reporting. If you want to see justice served and the truth exposed, hit that like button right now. It sends a message that we are watching. And if you aren't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are following this case day by day, and you do not want to miss the updates when the depositions leak. Go ahead, click it now. Join the team that digs deeper than the cameras ever will. Now let's get into the lawsuit that is shaking the foundation of Roloff Farms. According to exclusive theories and insider reports, a prestigious law firm known as Peterson Andy has officially filed a massive class action lawsuit in federal court against Matt Roloff and Roloff Farms Incorporated. This is not a small claims court dispute over a parking ticket. This is a federal case. The plaintiffs aren't just random haters from the internet. They are 5 specific families representing what could be thousands of ticketed guests who visited the farm during the pumpkin season spanning a 5-year period. These families are alleging that they were defrauded. They are claiming that the marketing materials, the television show narratives, and Matt's own public statements created a binding contract of trust that he violated. The lead plaintiffs, described in reports as longtime viewers who traveled across the country to visit the farm, argue that they spent thousands of dollars on travel, accommodation, and farm merchandise under the specific impression that they were contributing to the preservation of the Roloff family land for the benefit of the Roloff children. The lawsuit, which insiders are calling the fan fraud case, outlines a narrative of deception. It claims that starting in 2018, Matt Roloff began a systematic process of liquidating family assets while publicly maintaining the facade of a family-run business to keep ticket sales high. The legal argument here is incredibly sophisticated. It hinges on the concept that the product Matt was selling wasn't just a pumpkin or a wagon ride. The product was the story. And if that story was a fabrication designed to extract money from loyal fans while he secretly dismantled the very legacy they were paying to support, that constitutes fraud. We are hearing reports that the law firm Peterson Andy is aggressively seeking discovery. They represent families who feel foolish, used, and betrayed. One of the plaintiffs, a grandmother from Ohio, allegedly stated in the filing that she brought her grandchildren to the farm specifically because Matt promised on national television that the farm was a legacy for Jackson and the other grandbabies. She spent over $500 at the farm in 2021. Now, knowing that Matt was allegedly planning to sell the property and cut the family out, she contends that her transaction was based on a lie. This creates a legal nightmare for Matt. In a class action suit, the damages aren't just calculated by the cost of one ticket. They are calculated by the total revenue generated during the period of the alleged fraud. If the court finds that Matt knowingly misled the public about the nature of the farm's future to boost pumpkin season attendance, he could be liable for refunding every single dollar spent at the farm from 2018 to 2023. That is where the $5 million figure comes from. It is an aggregate of gate fees, tours, merchandise, and food sales, all potentially subject to a clawback. But it gets darker. The setup of this lawsuit isn't just about the sale of the farm. It touches on where the money went. The complaint allegedly points to a discrepancy between the farm's revenue and the reinvestment into the property. Fans noticed for years that certain attractions were looking run down, that the castle wasn't being maintained as it should be. They assumed the money was tight. But the lawsuit alleges that the money wasn't tight. It was just moving. The lawyers for the plaintiffs are expected to argue that while fans were donating to the preservation fund by buying tickets, Matt was allegedly moving capital into private holdings that were shielded from the rest of the family. This brings us to the core legal argument that makes this case so dangerous for Matt: fraudulent inducement. Fraudulent inducement is a specific legal claim. It happens when one person tricks another person into a contract or a transaction by lying about the facts. In this context, the lie was the narrative of the show. The twist in this legal saga is that the plaintiffs are using the episodes of Little People, Big World as evidence against him. They are logging timestamps from seasons aired between 2018 and 2023, where Matt explicitly states his intention to pass the farm down. The lawsuit argues that at the exact moment he was saying those words to the camera to get you to buy tickets, he was allegedly meeting with real estate developers and financial planners to liquidate the asset. This is where the line between reality TV and reality crime gets blurred. If Matt went on camera and solicited support for a legacy he had already decided to destroy, that is not just a plot line. That is a deceptive trade practice. The twist deepens when we look at the role of the secret life funded by this money. Insider theories suggest that the plaintiffs have requested access to Matt's personal financial records to trace the flow of pumpkin season cash. They aren't just looking for business expenses, they are looking for the Karen factor. There are reports that the lawsuit explicitly names Karen Chandler as a subject of interest in the financial discovery phase. The allegation is scorching, that the money meant for the farm's upkeep and the grandchildren's heritage was allegedly diverted to fund luxury vacations, Arizona real estate, and high-end personal gifts. The twist here is that the fans are claiming they essentially paid for Matt and Karen's retirement under the guise of helping Zach and Tori's future. Imagine the courtroom scene. Matt Roloff on the stand, being forced to answer why he raised ticket prices in 2022. He might say it was inflation, but the plaintiff's attorneys could pull up bank records showing a massive transfer of funds to a private investment account in Arizona the very next day. They could argue that the price hike wasn't about the cost of pumpkins. It was about squeezing the last drops of cash out of the fan base before the inevitable sale. The legal term unjust enrichment is also floating around these insider discussions. This principle states that one person should not be allowed to profit at the expense of others through unfair means. The fans are arguing that Matt was unjustly enriched because he used the emotional connection viewers had with the children he was allegedly estranging in private, to open their wallets. It is a cynical, brutal accusation. It suggests that every time Matt posted a photo of a grandchild on the farm during pumpkin season, it was a calculated marketing move to hide the fact that he was dismantling their inheritance. The twist involves the timeline of the farm negotiation with Zach and Jeremy. We all watched the heartbreaking episodes where the negotiations fell apart. We saw the pain in Zach's eyes, but the lawsuit suggests that those negotiations were a sham from the start. The theory presented by the legal team is that Matt never intended to sell to the boys at a fair price. They allege that he intentionally set an impossible price to force a rejection, giving him the moral cover to sell to strangers or liquidate, all while telling the public, "I tried, but the kids didn't want it." If the lawyers can prove that Matt had no intention of selling to the family, then every advertisement, every social media post, and every episode where he claimed to be holding down the fort for the family becomes a fraudulent statement. And because these statements were made across state lines via television and the internet to sell tickets to people all over the country, this escalates to a federal level. This brings us to the structure of the lawsuit's class definition. It includes anyone who can prove they visited the farm, but it also includes a subclass of people who bought legacy merchandise, items specifically branded with the family name. The argument is that the value of those items is tied to the integrity of the family bond. By allegedly destroying that bond for profit, Matt rendered those items worthless. It sounds abstract, but in consumer law, if you sell a, quote, piece of history and then reveal the history was a hoax, you are liable. The twist continues to tighten when we consider the potential witnesses. It's not just Matt who is in the crosshairs. The plaintiffs are reportedly seeking to depose the farm's longtime employees. These are the people who saw where the cash went at the end of every day during pumpkin season. Did they see cash being bundled for deposit into the farm's operating account, or did they see irregularities? Did they hear conversations between Matt and Karen about exit strategies years before the public knew anything? There is also a whisper among legal analysts following this hypothetical case that the plaintiffs might try to subpoena the raw footage from TLC. The editors cut the show to tell a story, but the raw footage contains the truth. If there are outtakes where Matt discusses selling the farm for pure profit while the cameras are rolling, that footage could be the smoking gun. The lawsuit could force the production company to hand over tapes that show the real Matt Roloff, stripped of the kindly grandfather edit. This is why the fraudulent inducement angle is so powerful. It doesn't require Matt to have stolen money in a literal sense, like robbing a bank. It just requires him to have lied to you to get your money. If he sold you a ticket to a family farm, but he was running a liquidation sale, that is the fraud. And the damages are tripled in some jurisdictions if the fraud is proven to be willful and malicious. As we move toward the climax of this legal breakdown, you have to understand the sheer scale of the financial discovery being demanded. We are talking about 5 years of tax returns, 5 years of credit card statements, 5 years of travel logs. The plaintiffs want to know if the trip to Cabo, the new house builds, and the fancy dinners were paid for by the farm operating account. If they can draw a direct line from your ticket purchase to a diamond necklace for Karen, the jury will be furious. And let's be honest, juries are made up of normal people. People who work hard for their money, people who value family. If they see a wealthy reality star exploiting the image of his own grandchildren to trick working-class families out of their hard-earned cash, the punitive damages could be astronomical. Matt isn't just fighting for his money here, he is fighting for his reputation and perhaps his freedom from a lifetime of debt. This lawsuit changes everything we thought we knew about the last 5 seasons of the show. It reframes every conflict. When Amy was arguing with Matt about money, was she sensing this? When Zach walked away, did he know that the fan fund was being misused? The lawsuit alleges that the family members themselves might have been victims of this same manipulation, but the fans are the ones with the standing to sue for consumer fraud. The strategy of the Peterson-Andy firm is ruthless. They are attacking Matt's credibility on every level. They are digging into the zoning permits, the safety regulations, and the charitable donations. Did the charity events at the farm actually send the money to charity, Or was there administrative overhead that went into Matt's pocket? These are the questions being asked in the interrogatories. The twist is that Matt can't just settle this quietly. Because it is a class action, any settlement has to be approved by a judge and made public. He cannot buy their silence. He has to face the music. And the music is getting louder. The fans are organized, they are represented by serious legal counsel, and they are out for blood. They don't just want a refund, they want vindication. They want the world to know that they were right to feel uneasy about Matt's behavior. They want a judge to validate their feeling that the Roloff farm they loved was turned into a trap. Stay tuned because what comes next involves the discovery phase, and that is where the skeletons come dancing out of the closet. The investigation deepens, and the deeper we look, the darker the picture becomes. To understand the full scope of this alleged fraud, we have to follow the money. And according to the documents filed by Peterson Andy, that money trail does not lead to the pumpkin patch. It leads directly to Arizona. The lawsuit introduces a concept known as misappropriation of funds. But in the context of this class action, the plaintiffs are calling it the Arizona siphon. The theory is devastatingly simple, yet complex in its execution. The legal team alleges that Matt established a series of shell companies, limited liability corporations that appeared to be related to farm operations, but were actually holding companies for personal real estate ventures in the Southwest. When you handed over your credit card to buy a wagon tour in Oregon, you assumed that transaction was processed through Roloff Farms, Inc. to pay for the tractor fuel, the insurance, and the staff. But insider reports attached to the filing suggest that a percentage of every single transaction was electronically split at the point of sale. One portion went to the farm to keep the lights on, but another portion, allegedly labeled as consulting fees or licensing royalties, was instantly wired to accounts controlled solely by Matt and Karen. This is where the betrayal hits home. The fans weren't just overcharged, they were unwittingly acting as investors in a retirement portfolio they would never see a return on. The plaintiffs are zeroing in on the timeline of the new house build. We all remember the massive construction project Matt undertook, the dream house that seemed to grow larger every episode. The lawsuit alleges that the funding for this personal palace coincided perfectly with the most aggressive price hikes in the farm's history. The legal filing reportedly contains a chart, Exhibit C, which overlays the spikes in pumpkin prices with the invoices for custom lumber and imported fixtures for Matt's new home. The correlation is described as statistically impossible to ignore. The argument is that Matt artificially inflated the cost of the family experience to subsidize his bachelor pad, all while pleading poverty to his own children during the negotiation process. But the Arizona siphon is just the tip of the iceberg. The lawsuit gets significantly more personal when it addresses the role of Karen Chandler. While she has never been officially married to Matt during this period, the lawsuit allegedly names her as a de facto officer of the corporation. This is a crucial legal distinction. It means that even though she might not have her name on the deed, she was pulling the levers of the business. The plaintiffs claim that Karen was placed on the payroll as a farm manager or lead consultant with a salary that far exceeded industry standards. We are hearing numbers that would shock you. Hundreds of thousands of dollars annually for a role that the plaintiffs argue was largely ceremonial during the off-season. The allegation here is what lawyers call corporate waste. If Matt was paying his girlfriend an exorbitant salary from the company funds that came from your ticket purchases, simply to fund their lifestyle, that is a breach of the trust he held with the consumer. The lawsuit paints a picture of Karen not as a passive partner, but as the architect of the new Roloff brand, one that prioritized efficiency and profit extraction over the chaotic, wholesome fun of the old days. The fans represented in this case argue that the Karen era of the farm was characterized by a sharp decline in quality and a sharp rise in greed, and they want the court to hold her financially accountable alongside Matt. Let's talk about the specific merchandise fraud allegations, because this is where the salsa scam comes into play. Included in the class action are fans who purchased the famous Roloff salsa and other branded food items. The packaging, the marketing, and the show itself always touted these products as farm fresh, homemade, and family recipes. It was a huge selling point. You weren't buying generic salsa, you were buying a taste of the Roloff kitchen. However, the discovery team for the plaintiffs has allegedly unearthed shipping manifests that contradict this story entirely. The theory being presented is that the salsa and other products were actually mass-produced by a generic white label factory in a completely different state, relabeled with the Roloff sticker, and sold at a 400% markup. If this is proven true, it constitutes clear-cut false advertising. The lawsuit argues that Matt knowingly peddled industrial food products as artisanal farm goods. One plaintiff, a father who bought 3 cases of salsa as Christmas gifts, claims in the affidavit that he feels humiliated by the deception, realizing he gave his family a generic supermarket dip disguised as a premium gift. This might sound minor compared to the land deals, but in federal court, consumer fraud regarding food labeling is taken incredibly seriously. It establishes a pattern of dishonesty that infects every aspect of the business. Now, we move to the safety lie. This is perhaps the most dangerous part of the lawsuit for Matt regarding his public image. For years, Matt has spoken about the need to modernize the farm for safety. He justified closing certain attractions and changing the layout by citing safety concerns for the guests. The lawsuit alleges that this was a smokescreen. The plaintiffs claim that money explicitly earmarked for safety upgrades, funds that were justified to the public through increased safety fees on tickets, was never spent on safety. Instead, reports suggest the Western Town and the castle were allowed to rot not because of safety concerns, but because maintaining them didn't generate enough immediate cash flow for Matt's external investments. The legal team is arguing that Matt created a manufactured crisis regarding the safety of the old attractions to justify shutting them down and cutting labor costs, all while continuing to charge premium prices for a diminished experience. They are calling it bait and switch on a massive scale. You bought a ticket for a theme park. You got to walk through a field with a few photo ops. The disparity between what was promised in the glossy brochures and on the TV show versus the reality of the dilapidated attractions is the heart of the breach of contract claim. As we transition into the climax of this narrative, we arrive at the nightmare discovery phase. In any federal lawsuit, the discovery phase is where the truth comes out. It is the process where both sides are legally required to hand over evidence. And in this case, the plaintiffs are asking for everything. They have filed motions to compel Matt Roloff to produce 5 years of unredacted bank statements, credit card bills, and emails. But they aren't stopping there. They are demanding the digital footprint of the farm. This means every text message between Matt and Karen regarding the farm's finances, every email sent to his accountant, every voicemail left for his real estate agents. The plaintiffs are looking for the smoking gun communications where Matt explicitly discusses the strategy of squeezing the fans for cash. Imagine a text message where Matt jokes about raising the price of a pumpkin to $20 because the fans will pay anything. If such a text exists and the discovery team finds it, the case is essentially over. It would prove malicious intent. The discovery demands also extend to the Little People, Big World production archives. The law firm is reportedly petitioning the court to subpoena the raw production logs from the filming crews. They want to know what happened when the cameras were off. Did the producers capture audio of Matt discussing the fake nature of the farm negotiations? Did they film him admitting that the family legacy was just a marketing slogan? The production company will fight this, of course, but if a federal judge deems it relevant to a fraud case, those tapes could be released to the jury. The thought of unedited, raw footage of Matt Roloff being played in a federal courtroom is the ultimate nightmare for the reality star. It would strip away the editing magic that has protected him for 2 decades. The plaintiffs are also employing forensic accountants. These are financial detectives whose sole job is to find hidden money. They are experts at piercing the corporate veil. They will be looking at every transfer between Roloff Farms, Inc. and Matt's personal accounts. They will scrutinize every business trip to see if it was actually a vacation. Did Matt write off a trip to Hawaii as a business expense to scout pumpkin seeds? If he did, that is tax fraud. And while this is a civil suit, evidence of tax fraud can lead to criminal referrals. The stakes are escalating from a refund check to potential prison time if the IRS gets involved based on the evidence uncovered in this lawsuit. Then comes the prospect of the depositions. A deposition is an interview under oath, recorded on video, where the person must answer questions from the opposing lawyers. There is no script, there is no producer to yell cut. There is just Matt, a court reporter, and a team of ruthless attorneys who represent the angry fans. They will grill him for hours, possibly days. They will sit him down, put a transcript of his TV episodes in front of him, and ask, "Mr. Roloff, on October 14th, 2020, you told the audience this farm would always be for your children. At that time, were you or were you not already in negotiations to list the property on the open market?" If he lies, he commits perjury, a felony. If he tells the truth, he admits to the fraud. He is trapped. And they won't just depose Matt, they will depose Karen. They will separate them, question them in different rooms, and see if their stories match. If Karen says one thing about where the money went and Matt says another, the discrepancies will be used to destroy their credibility. The lawyers will ask Karen specifically about the gifts she received. "Ms. Chandler, did you know that the $50,000 renovation to your sunroom was paid for by the Roloff Farms operating account? Did you declare that as income?" These are questions that destroy relationships and ruin reputations. The plaintiffs are also expected to call the Roloff children as witnesses. Imagine Zach or Jeremy being subpoenaed to testify against their own father. The lawyers would ask them, under oath, "Did your father ever show you the true financial books of the farm? Did he lie to you about the value of the land?" If the children testify that Matt misled them too, it reinforces the narrative that Matt is a serial manipulator who spared no one, not even his own blood, in his pursuit of wealth. The emotional weight of seeing his children testify for the prosecution, even in a civil case, would be the final nail in the coffin of his public persona. The refund demand is the climax of the financial threat. The lawsuit isn't asking for a token settlement. They are demanding a full rescission of all transactions. This means they want the court to treat the last 5 years of business as illegitimate. They are calculating the damages based on the unjust enrichment model. The logic is that Matt didn't earn that $5 million. He stole it through deception. Therefore, he must give it all back. But the plaintiffs are going further. They are seeking punitive damages. In the U.S. legal system, punitive damages are extra fines designed to punish the defendant for particularly bad behavior and to warn others not to do the same. Because Matt used a platform of family values to allegedly commit this fraud, the lawyers are arguing that his conduct was reprehensible. They are asking for triple damages. So that $5 million lawsuit could theoretically balloon to $15 million. That is a bankruptcy-level event. That is the kind of debt that forces the sale of everything: the farm, the Arizona house, the cars, the investments. It is total financial annihilation. The lawyers are also building a case for emotional distress for the superfans. These are people who invested their hearts in the show. They feel psychologically manipulated. The suit alleges that Matt weaponized parasocial relationships, the one-sided bond fans feel with celebrities, to exploit vulnerable viewers. They are bringing in psychologists to testify that the betrayal felt by fans is akin to discovering a close friend has been conning you for years. It sounds dramatic, but in the court of public opinion and potentially in a jury box, it is a powerful narrative. As the discovery phase heats up, rumors are circulating about a whistleblower from inside the farm. A source, likely a former seasonal employee or a disgruntled contractor, has reportedly approached the Peterson-Andy law firm with a thumb drive of documents. This mystery witness claims to have proof of the double books, the actual ledger that shows the real cash intake versus what was reported to the family. If this whistleblower is real, and if their evidence is admissible, Matt Roloff is walking into a legal buzzsaw. The tension is unbearable. Matt's legal team is frantically filing motions to dismiss, trying to get the judge to throw the case out before discovery begins. They are arguing that puffery, marketing exaggeration, is not a crime. They are claiming that no reasonable person assumes a reality TV show is 100% factual. They are trying to blame the fans for being too gullible. But this defense is risky. By calling his own fans gullible, Matt risks alienating the few supporters he has left. It is a desperate move from a man who sees the walls closing in. Every day brings a new revelation. Every motion field reveals a new crack in the armor. We are watching the slow-motion disintegration of an empire built on pumpkins and promises. The fans have taken control of the narrative, and they are writing an ending that TLC never scripted. The courtroom is set, the subpoenas are being served, and the world is waiting to see if the king of Roloff Farms will finally be dethroned by the very people who put the crown on his head. The walls are closing in, and the window for an escape is shutting tight. As we analyze the potential outcome of this legal catastrophe, we have to look at the one thing Matt Roloff fears more than losing his reputation: losing his ability to start over. Most people assume that if a business owner gets sued for millions of dollars, they can simply file for bankruptcy, wipe the slate clean, and retire to Arizona. That is the standard playbook for the rich and famous. But this is where the fan fraud lawsuit becomes a lethal trap. Because the plaintiffs are suing for fraud, specifically fraudulent inducement and unjust enrichment based on deceptive practices, Matt cannot simply declare bankruptcy to make this debt go away. Under federal bankruptcy law, specifically Section 523, any debt obtained under false pretenses, a false representation, or actual fraud is non-dischargeable. This is the nightmare scenario. If the court rules that Matt knowingly misled the fans about the nature of the farm to sell tickets, that judgment debt follows him for the rest of his life. He could lose the farm, he could lose the Arizona property, he could lose his personal savings, and the debt would still be there, accruing interest, garnishing his Social Security, and haunting his estate. There is no reset button for fraud. This legal reality changes the entire dynamic of the settlement talks. Insider theories suggest that Matt's legal team is currently in a state of panic behind closed doors. They know that if this goes to a jury trial, and a jury of regular people sees the evidence of the Karen factor and the Arizona siphon, they will not only find him liable, but they will likely award punitive damages to send a message. A $10 million judgment that cannot be erased by bankruptcy is effectively a life sentence of financial ruin. So, what is the exit strategy? Rumors are swirling that Matt is frantically trying to liquidate assets before a judgment is rendered. But the plaintiffs are one step ahead. We are hearing reports that the legal firm Peterson-Andy has filed for a preliminary injunction, a court order that would freeze Matt's assets immediately. This would prevent him from selling land, moving cash, or hiding wealth in offshore accounts while the trial is pending. If the judge grants this, Matt Roloff will be financially paralyzed. He wouldn't be able to buy a plane ticket without court approval. The fallout extends beyond the courtroom and into the family dynamic. This lawsuit is the ultimate vindication for Zach and Tori. For years, they have been painted as the entitled children who wanted a handout. But if this lawsuit proves that the farm's finances were built on a house of cards and fan deception, it proves that Zach was right to walk away. It suggests that Zach saw the moral rot at the core of the business and chose his integrity over the inheritance. The fans are already starting to view the failed negotiation scene in a new light. It wasn't that Zach couldn't afford the farm, it was that he refused to be a partner in a scheme that exploited the very people who loved watching them. And what about TLC? The network is reportedly monitoring this situation with extreme caution. If a federal court certifies that the show was used as a vehicle for consumer fraud, the network could be pulled into the litigation as a co-defendant. To protect themselves, industry analysts predict that TLC would have no choice but to cancel Little People Big World immediately and scrub the episodes from streaming platforms to avoid liability. This would cut off Matt's last remaining stream of easy income right when he needs it most to pay his legal fees. The cancellation of the show wouldn't just be the end of an era, it would be the end of Matt's relevance and his revenue. We also have to consider the Karen ultimatum. Sources close to the situation speculate that the relationship between Matt and Karen is fracturing under the pressure. Karen has always been portrayed as the savvy manager, the one who keeps things running. But now that her name is allegedly circulating in the discovery documents regarding the misuse of funds, she is facing her own legal exposure. The theory is that Karen might cut a deal. If she testifies that she was just following Matt's orders, that she had no control over the Arizona siphon, she might escape with her own finances intact, but that would require turning on Matt. In the world of high-stakes fraud litigation, loyalty usually ends where the indictment begins. If Karen flips, Matt is alone. Let's look at the tragic irony of the farm itself. Matt spent 30 years building Roloff Farms into a world-famous attraction. He sacrificed his marriage with Amy, he alienated his children, and he burned bridges with his neighbors, all to build this empire. And now, the empire is the very thing that might destroy him. If the judgment goes against him, the court could order the forced sale of Roloff Farms to pay the victims. Imagine the scene. An auctioneer standing on the steps of the big house, selling off the mule, the tractor, and the land to the highest bidder, while Matt watches from the sidelines. The land wouldn't go to Jeremy or Zach. It would go to developers or a corporate conglomerate, and the Roloff legacy would be paved over for a parking lot. The fans who are suing aren't doing this because they hate the show. They are doing it because they love it. They feel like they were part of the family, and finding out that they were just revenue units to fund a luxury lifestyle is a deep emotional wound. The lawsuit alleges emotional distress for a reason. It captures the feeling of being conned by someone you invited into your living room every Tuesday night for a decade. The forensic accountants are currently combing through the pumpkin season ledgers. They are looking for the discrepancy between the charity claims and the actual donations. If they find that Matt solicited donations for a cause and used that money for personal gain, the case escalates from civil fraud to criminal wire fraud. That is when the FBI gets involved. While we are currently only discussing a civil class action lawsuit, the boundary between civil liability and criminal conduct is thin. If the recent news regarding the phantom employees, people on the payroll who never worked a day, turns out to be real evidence, Matt could be facing an indictment, not just a lawsuit. As we reach the final verdict of this breakdown, the picture is clear. Matt Roloff played a high-stakes game with the truth. He bet that his charm in the editing room would always protect him. He bet that the fans were too loyal to question the price hikes and the broken promises. But he was wrong. The fan fraud lawsuit is the checkmate. It is the moment where reality finally catches up with reality TV. We are witnessing the dismantling of a myth. The kindly grandpa persona is being peeled away to reveal a ruthless businessman who allegedly valued profit over people. The tragic part is that it didn't have to end this way. He could have sold the farm to the kids. He could have been transparent. He could have retired with dignity. Instead, he chose the path of extraction, and now he is facing the consequences. The law firm Peterson Andy is preparing for the next phase, class certification. Once the judge certifies the class, thousands more fans will receive notifications that they are eligible to join the suit. The claim amount will skyrocket. The pressure will become unbearable. Matt will be forced to sit for that deposition, and for the first time in his life, he won't be able to edit the outcome. So, where do you stand? This is the most important question of the entire saga. You have watched the show. You have seen the cracks form. Now you see the legal hammer coming down. Do you believe Matt is innocent, a victim of greedy lawyers? Or do you believe the fans are right, that they were scammed by a man who used their emotions to line his pockets? If you ever visited Roloff Farms, or even if you just watched the show and feel betrayed by the allegations, I want you to make your voice heard. The court of public opinion matters just as much as the federal court. If you think Matt owes the fans their money back, I want you to type refund in the comments right now. Do it. Type REFUND. Let's flood the comment section so that when Matt's team checks social media, they see thousands of people demanding justice. And don't forget, this story is developing every single hour. We are waiting on the judge's ruling regarding the asset freeze. We are waiting to see if Karen hires her own lawyer. You do not want to be out of the loop when that news breaks. Click that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and join the investigation. We will be here, digging through the documents, reading the fine print, and bringing you the truth that the network tries to hide. This is the end of the Roloff Farms as we know it. The pumpkins are rotting, the castle is crumbling, and the bill is finally coming due. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the world of reality TV, the only thing that's real is the money you lost. We'll see you in the next update.